Hi everyone! If you're thinking of building or renovating, then this is the place to be. I'm Nikki Verrall from Totally Wicked Group, CEO and founder, and welcome to our Totally Wicked Q&A live, our very first one for the year. And tonight we're going to be talking about all things kitchens. I love kitchens, I love cooking, I love eating. I could eat my way around the world if I had the option. Uh, designing kitchens is something I absolutely love to do. So hopefully, we'll get some good content out for you. So tonight we'll be doing stuff about design styles, layouts, materials, time and cost. A lot of people think it's a really, really simple thing or it's a really, really expensive thing, and there's lots of bits and pieces you can do to make it a lot more cost effective. And also things like accessories and lighting and safety as well. Um, kitchens can be disastrous places if they're not installed properly or designed properly. We will be getting started soon. We'll just give people, oh, hi, Summer, give people a chance to log in. And when you do log in, stay tuned and like, comment, share, because thanks to Scott Beatty from Cube Home Loans, we have a $50 Bunnings gift voucher to give away. So you have to like, comment, and share and stay online to the end. And we'll be announcing that at the end. My little fairies in the background are going to tell me who wins. So, and thank you, Summer, for being on time. There should be a few more people coming as well. There's a few other people. Please comment and let me know where you are, what you're tuning in, where you're tuning in from, and what you kind of want to know. Because normally with these Q&As, we have a guest speaker. Tonight, I'm the expert. So ask me lots of questions. Because the more questions you ask, the more information you get, and the more entertaining it is as well. It's not just me sitting here talking. Well, I want to make sure that these information sessions or Q&As are actually of benefit to you. So I don't want to be warbling on about stainless steel bench tops if no one's interested in them. Oh, multitasking the kids to bed. Yes. Bonjour. I wish I knew more French than that. Awesome. So we're going to be doing 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how many questions we get and how long I take to answer them, I suppose. Also, tag anyone who you think might benefit from knowing more about kitchens. If anybody you know is doing kitchen renovations or thinking of doing kitchen renovations, or maybe buying a house and they're thinking of buying a fixer-upper, there's a lot of really good information that we've got for tonight. I want to know if open kitchens with islands sell better than L-shaped kitchens, if that makes sense. We do like an island open one. That entirely depends on the rest of the space, I think. A real estate agent will obviously have a different opinion to me, and wherever you purchase or you're looking to purchase a block of land or, the house, would depend on lots of different things in terms of trends. But I often think that island benches, with the way that lives are today, it's a lot more communal. The kitchen is a lot more a part of the house, and having an island bench where you can have essentially 4 areas where people can stand around and communally make or eat or, just talk. I think that's much better. But I do have a layout to show you soon that will be an L shape with an island. So it's both of the things that you were asking about. And as far as I'm concerned, that's probably one of the best layouts. But I'll show you why later. Yes. Yes, summer. That's what we like about it too. Just another reminder that we do have a free newsletter which will give you links to a lot of videos we've already done, this video, a summary of this video, and also some awesome checklists. So while other people are just signing in, I'm just going to show you what that looks like because it's just totally awesome. Just bear with me while I share this screen. Aha, there we go. So if you're already one of our subscribers and you sign up tonight as a new subscriber, you get this awesome kitchen checklist. So it's got in more depth what I'm going to be talking about today, as well as a whole heap of other stuff. So there's things like design styles, which I'm not really going to go too much into because there's just so many of them. Also stuff like layout, summer, a whole heap of in-depth information about materials and a few little drawings. So there's lots of cool stuff happening. Just going to turn that off now and talk to you again. Hi. So thank you for sharing. Anybody who hasn't already shared, please share, please like, please tag. Get started in a minute. A little general disclaimer though, this is all standard information, very general. Obviously, if you do want to do any work, get a professional to come in and look at exactly your specific details, your specific home, what you want to do. And it ultimately comes down to whatever you want, whatever you need. There will be a few moments tonight, I'm sure, where I'll say, well, I don't really like this design or I don't really like this because, but if you want to do it, that's fine. Just try and give you as much information as I can. A little bit of background about me and why I love kitchens so much. So I've actually been working in the industry for over 15 years. I started working while I was still at uni, and I've worked for myself, for small companies, for big companies, multinationals, and I have designed everything from tiny little studio apartments where space and cost were paramount, all the way up to penthouse apartments and multi-million-dollar kitchens, which was so much fun. Oh my God, it was great. I've also done a few hotels for accessibility, and that's one of my passions. So there are a few moments tonight where I will be talking about a few accessible items that I think should be really in every kitchen. Hey, Stu. Materials, stainless steel or stone for a kitchen bench top, which is the best? So depends on the style that you're going with the rest of your house. But in terms of actual materials, stainless steel, I mean, there's a reason why stainless steel is in commercial kitchens. It is really heat resistant. So you can basically take a pot off the stove, put it straight on the stainless steel, and it's pretty much fine. Unless it's something that's been taken out of the oven at 250 degrees, you're pretty much fine. If you've got lots of scratches and things like that on it, they tend to buff out, but they stay a little bit longer. It also tends to be more expensive because it needs to be rolled and folded and all of those sorts of things. Stone, now there's heaps of different types of stone and they all have various different uses. You can go with like a quartz or a granite, a reconstituted stone. You can get stone with resins as well. Granite is probably the best, but it's also the most expensive, and you need to have it in one sheet. Otherwise, it just looks really, really dicky especially if you're having like an island bench, a join, it's really not that great. Whereas reconstituted stone, it's cheaper and it looks quite as good, but it's not as heat resistant, and can, depending on which ones you get a bit of discoloration over time. So it really depends on the style, the cost, and what you really want out of it in terms of heat. Oh, Karen, I'm glad you're here now. I'm glad it's official. Okay, so it's now 10 past, so keep asking questions. Hang on, I just got, okay, right. Sorry, I just got a message. I got all too excited there. So I'm just going to start going through different layouts. So the very first thing with designing a kitchen is you've got to think about the layout, especially if you're doing a renovation. You've got to really look at where the individual pieces are in an existing space and whether you want to rip everything out and then just put it back in the same area and just revamp it, keep the layout the same, or whether it's really important to you to change the layout. Just being aware when you change the layout, you also might need to change walls, maybe add bulkheads, and of course adjust floors. You also need to think about where your services are. So if your sink is in an existing space and you want to move it right into the middle of the room and you've got a slab on ground, that's going to require digging up half the slab to do it. So very expensive. You can still do it, but lots and lots of hassle for the sake of moving a sink. Stainless steel is easier to clean. Yes and no. I think in the short term, yes. In the long term, I have noticed that some reconstituted white stones tend to get a little bit cloudy over time just from general buildup, and there's not a hell of a lot you can do about that. Stainless steel will always look like stainless steel, even with scratches and buffing them out and stuff. I actually really love stainless steel. This is one of my things. I love the industrial look. You have some stainless steel with some really nice timber. I think it looks amazing. But some people don't like that. It looks a bit too commercial for them. So it comes down to the style that you're looking at. Another thing in terms of layouts is you've got to sort of think about why you're building that kitchen or renovating in the first place. So if you're, say, flipping a house, if you can leave the surfaces where they are, do it. There are ways you can get around a few things here and there in terms of making things more functional, especially in a smaller space. That's where you sort of start to separate tasks. So maybe you might have like a little butler's pantry that doesn't necessarily have a sink or anything, but it's more for tea and coffee making. So you get that maybe into the dining room or into a more in between space. So you get a little bit more storage, but your main triangle, which I will explain in a minute, of your stove, your fridge, and your sink are all in that one area. So with that in mind, I'm going to share again and take you through what the triangle is. And I will answer that question in a minute that I just saw pop through. There we go. I'm just going to turn myself off. Haha. So this here is the kitchen triangle. And this is the important triad of design. The fatter that triangle, the better your workspace, because basically the sink, the fridge, and the stove are where you're going to be moving in between all the time. Even if you include things like a microwave and a dishwasher into this, generally you wouldn't be in the middle of cooking and then put everything straight in the dishwasher. You would be in the middle of cooking, you'd have something on the stove, you just chuck it all in the sink and then deal with it later. So this triangle is super important in terms of usability. And we try and make that triangle as fat as possible. There are some other dimensions here that show minimum sort of clearances around items as well, or recommended clearances around items, because you do need somewhere to put your prep when you're scooping something into the stove, when you're putting something away, when you need to take something out of the fridge, maybe you got your hands full, those sorts of things. So, Carolyn, how easy is it to clean marble? Heard it's a nightmare. I've never had to do it personally, but yeah, I know there are some marble cleaners out there. I tend to stay away from marble. Again, it's a little bit like the reconstituted stone, especially if you've got a lighter color or a really dark color. It seems to be those two colors tend to show up all the streaks. Yeah, I try and steer clear of marble. Generally, if you're going to go with a really solid stone, I would be doing a granite. I mean, obviously it's more expensive, but a granite or a quartz. The quartz are pretty good now. The reconstituted, re-engineered stone. Is it better to use a whole slab or of marble or cut it down for the island? I'm not sure, Marie Stacey, I'm not sure if I understand the question. Are you talking about a waterfall? I'll just see if we've got, I think, yeah, here we go. So I'm not sure if this is what you mean, but this is an island bench with a waterfall. So the stone goes all the way up the sides and then across the top and then back down. I think, or are you talking about a cut maybe? Just follow-up question for you, Marie Stacey. Are you talking about cutting the slab on the top for wastage, or are you talking about waterfalls on either side, so the uprights on either side? Philip, electricity to gas conversion, what complications with installing gas piping? I'll turn myself back on again so I can answer this. Hello, there I am. Usually distance. So if it's on a second story and it's a timber frame or a steel frame house, really, really simple, because the distance to go down, you can punch holes through in between the joists and things like that. Really easy. If you've got the existing stove in a home that's block work or brick and not brick veneer, or maybe it's concrete block, then you will have to drill through. So it's there's also, I've seen some instances where you've got the stove in the island bench, so you would effectively have to dig up the floor if you're a slab on ground. So that's where location is very, very important. I think gas conversions, about $1,000, I think, for a really easy one. That was the last time I had a look at it. Don't quote me on that though. I get it, quote me. Summer, I have 3 kids, and the thing with the sink on the island wouldn't work well because everyone would see our dishes. Yes. So that's where you have to think about what you have existing, Summer, and what your layout should be. I'll get back onto layouts in a minute because there's a few other ones I want to show you. We have dark marble and think it looks amazing, but maybe my eyes are going. If it's looked after well and it's installed properly and it's not too old, then normally it's okay. But yeah, I have seen some instances where especially with heat and stuff. I just prefer granite. Stu, if you like marble, go for it. Oh, cool thing on the computer. Yes, I love it too. Oh, Karen. Yes, Karen, what was your question? I can't remove. Okay, so Karen here says, what about covering an old kitchen bench top with a new top? I can't remove the old one without destroying the existing cupboards. Huh. So ordinarily, I mean, it depends on what type of cabinet you've got, but ordinarily the way that joinery works is there will be the carcass, and the top of the carcass you will fix the bench top underneath. So there should be some fixing points underneath, but it entirely depends on what you've got. Without looking at it, I can't really help you with that, Karen. Sorry. Unless it's been dodgified and just glued on top, which, yeah, you really don't have many options if you can't remove it. I'm assuming it might be some laminate or something like that, and then you've got to be really careful taking them off because if it's been glued on, as soon as you start to remove the coating, like whether it's a melamine or laminate on the carcass, that's when you start getting issues because all it takes is for a little bit of moisture to get into the substrate and it will start to fail. You really don't want that. So yeah, without actually having a look at it, I can't help you much more than that. I have seen some really dodgy renovations where people have just glued stuff on top and haven't fixed it properly. I'm going to assume that might be the problem. If you can make another comment and make sure I've interpreted that correctly, that would be great. What did I just read? No, it's all glued and screwed. Yep. Yep. You could potentially try to use some, what's it called? It dissolves glue. But you have to be very, very careful. I would do it in little bits and just to make sure it's not going to lift the laminate or the melamine underneath. Because again, once you do that, you're pretty much going to have to rip everything out anyway, or at least replace the bits that are taken and that have swollen, and then you're kind of done for anyway. Yep, laminate. Yeah. Sorry, bad news for you, Karen. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to get back to this because this is super awesome and important. Did that just swap over? Yeah, cool. So these are exported from a program I use called Revit, and it's how I do most of my work, to be perfectly honest. But there's a few standard shapes of kitchen. So this is the galley. Then you've got your standard L shape with or without an island. Yeah, there's another one without an island, and a U shape. The U shape, hang on a second, I've got to spin around a bit. The U shape is great for small spaces and additional storage, but in terms of usability, the corners are not that great. And I think in this day and age, it's really not conducive to the majority of the way we live now. I feel like the kitchen is a lot more the center of the home and a lot more communal. Like Summer was saying before, it's a center for the kids, and you can have lots of different things happening. It's not just cooking. You could be doing homework around the kitchen bench. But if we look at these different options, the triangle of the stove, the sink, and the fridge is actually really fat. So that's the one thing that this U-shape really has going for it. The usability of that space is actually really, really good. And in terms of accessibility, it's reasonably good, depending on what this dimension is. I would probably make it a bit larger for accessibility if I could, just because you can go in and then turn around without doing a 16-point turn if you're in a wheelchair or if you're an old lady with a walker. Okay, let's have a look. So this is an L-shaped. Oi, need to make sure I'm in the right thing. There we go. So this is an L-shaped kitchen where the triangle is a little bit more elongated. So, I mean, it still works. It's just not as great. But you can see there are lots of different options with pantries and microwaves and things like that kind of balance out. Even though it's not part of the triangle, it still opens it up a little bit better. And this could be a case where if you've got quite a small area, you could put a dining table here. So you get more space without it being enclosed more like this U shape. And this could also be an instance where you might have another section over here that's a bigger pantry or like a tea area, like I was saying before. Oh gosh, I did it again. There we go. This is sort of my favorite, I think, because I just love island benches. I think given the way that we live and work at home, this is where everything happens. You eat breakfast here, you have discussions here, you might lean against the table and have a drink, talking to your friends in the middle of a party. And I think it really adds to the fatness of the triangle. Obviously, you've got to think, we haven't shown them here, but you've got to think about the tap coming up. So I've seen a lot of instances where you'll actually like cover it over. Also things like the depth of this. Now I had one client and they wanted that island bench really, really big. So we basically did a whole slab of stone. And it was great because we actually had cabinets on one side, cabinets on the other, so you could access them from both sides, and then breakfast bar seating like this. And another thing to note, always be aware of your dimensions. So especially with things like reconstituted stone, you might end up with a island bench that's 900 wide, so across this way, but they've got to cut that out of a 1200 sheet. So there's this offcut that's not being used that you're essentially paying for. So whatever benchtop material you choose, I suggest you have a look at what sizes they come in and see if you can make the most of that dimension to eliminate wastage, and you get more bench space. So, win-win. This one here is a galley. Oh, yep, that's all good. This is actually really quite a good system, provided that this isn't a thoroughfare. If this is a thoroughfare, it can actually get quite dangerous. Obviously, if you like Summer or myself, and you've got kids and they're toddlers and they're running through here, not a grand plan. So you could even have a situation where this doesn't have any overheads over here. So maybe you've got a half open wall so that people can walk around, those sorts of things. Okay, I'm going to go through some questions now. And here we go. A bit of a debate between induction versus gas for stoves. Which one is best? So pros and cons for both. Gas, naked flame, instant heat. You need to either have a gas bottle or in some states, Some areas they have gas directly to the house. It does tend to be more expensive. Gas prices do this, like electricity, more so. I love gas. I just like turning it on and there it is, hot straight away. None of this heat up stuff. Induction is a bit different to normal electrical though. It is much safer because you could be boiling water, take the pot off, and put your hand on there for 20 minutes and it's fine. You know, it works in such a way that it's more about the pot that you're using, which can also be a problem because you need to make sure that all the pots and pans that you have are induction friendly. Otherwise, they just won't work. So really preference. And also, if you can't do a gas conversion, then induction would be the next best thing to upgrade from a standard electrical stove. So that might be a way that you could get that instant heat or that almost instant heat without the gas. And some induction cooktops are zoneless as well, which is pretty awesome. So it means it just adjusts to whatever size the pan is. So you could literally have a big rectangular pan on top of an induction cooktop and it will heat the whole pan, not just a little circle. Hi, Brittany. Pendant lights or down lights over the island? I personally prefer down lights. I think it's just because it's a task area, but you can do some really nice things with pendant lights. And if you use LEDs, then they'll be much less hot. Much less hot. They won't be as hot. You can also get them at a higher lumen, which means that they're a brighter light. So if you're preparing over that space, it's much better light for you. And while they do cost a little bit more, they are much cheaper in the long run, better sustainability, better for power consumption. So if it sort of depends on what the style is that you're going with. But in terms of task lighting for that area, absolutely, I would be doing downlights, and they're also easier to clean, which is great. Could the sink go near the grey part? That depends on which item that was. Does moving the sink from the island cost much to do? That's very similar to the gas conversion question I answered before. If you've got a slab on ground, as soon as you start moving pipe work, it becomes a drama. You could, if the sink is already in the island and you want to move it to the wall, like an external wall, that's easier than doing it the other way because you could just cap it off in the island and then tie into the pipe elsewhere. So it's definitely easier doing it that way. But moving services is always very costly compared to just ripping out a kitchen and then reinstalling. For a new build, okay, so Summer, sorry I haven't got it yet. So planning wise, it would cost more. No, if you're doing it in a new build, it wouldn't cost a hell of a lot more. I mean, most of the time kitchens are built on external walls anyway, because these days they want to connect it with the outside a little bit more, but also it's much more cost effective to have all your services running along one external wall, or one or two external walls, as opposed to trying to bring services up in the middle of a whole house. Is also not very good for fire safety either. Yeah, so we're talking about an extra meter of pipe, maybe 2 meters of pipe laid into the concrete. I wouldn't expect it to cost much more. We're talking about a couple of cents. So I do want to quickly talk about materials because there's something that I think confuses people a lot, and that's Laminate and Melamine. So they're both finishes to cabinets usually, and Melamine is really, really thin, and it's applied with low pressure. So you have the substrate, and then there's one very thin layer of melamine, and it's usually white or black. You can get a few other colors, but they normally have them pretty standard, and they're fused to the board, and the board is purchased as is like that. Whereas laminate is thicker, it is high pressure, much more durable, and it comes in heaps of different colors and styles, and it's basically a print. So you can have stone looking, timber looking, random crazy patterns from outer world looking laminate. It's much more durable. It is more expensive, but it is also wrapped around the substrate. So sometimes they'll actually get a melamine board and wrap the laminate over the top of it. Other times they will actually just have the substrate like an MDF and then wrap the laminate around it. So more often than not, the cheaper off the shelf cabinets are melamine only, and they might have the melamine on the edges as well, so you get sort of a butt joint of the edges, which don't last anywhere near as long as an ABS or a PVC, which is the next thing I want to talk about. So the ABS and the PVC are plastic edging. I think a lot of the more modern Bunnings and IKEA furniture ones are more like the ABS edging. So it's coloured the same as the door. It is much more durable. The PVC edging, you might have seen that if you're an 80s school kid, they were quite common, and they're effectively bits of plastic that have these little sort of prongs in them. And so if that's your board, the prongs will stick in, and then you'll have this plastic rounded edge across the top running down. And they're great durability wise, but they tend to peel off, especially if you get moisture or anything like that within the substrate. And again, in schools in the 80s, I used to see lots of, when I was a kid at school, I just have to clarify that, you'd start to just peel away at them. So they each have their own place. They're each different costs, those sorts of things, but super important when you're picking things, especially if you're going to do it yourself and going to buy things from the Bunnings and Motor 10 and IKEA, all of those sorts of places. You need to be aware of the different materials, the difference between melamine and laminate. I would pick laminate every single day with an ABS edging. That would be my pick. I wouldn't go with melamine unless I was doing something that was just a really quick necessity, need something here, don't really care how long it lasts. Let's just get something in there and sort it out, replace it in the next 5 years. Fine. Star Wars laminate. Yes. That would be cool. I'm sure you could do that. I know you can do splashback prints. So the majority of splashbacks are glass, and you can just get like a print on the back of the glass, and that's what shows through. So to have a Star Wars print with the glass on top for splashbacks, that would be cool. Painting over. Okay, Karen, I'm not sure what you mean by pitched cupboard doors. Do you have any advice on painting over painted cupboard doors? I think that's what you mean. Is 2-pack any good? If they're solid timber, I would sand them down and paint and varnish them again, which is one of the benefits of solid timber. It is really durable and longevity is great, provided you keep it away from moisture. So anything in the tropics is terrible. But if they're laminate or melamine cupboards, depends on the quality of them. And again, if you're going to be painting them or using something like a 2-pack, if the substrate is not great to begin with, then it might look good for a couple of years and then start to bubble and peel. So it entirely depends on what you've currently got. If you're looking to do a revamp and the cupboard doors don't look all that great, but the actual carcass itself looks good, you might be better off just replacing the cupboard doors with something that is a laminate. That tends to freshen things up a little bit more. And with most of these things, the actual major cost is in the labor putting things together. So if you're just replacing a couple of cupboard doors, you can do that yourself. Pretty straightforward. Save some costs that way. You're welcome. So I'm gonna quickly go through some time and costings and a few more accessory things so that we can get through a few more things. Remembering, the more you comment, like, and share, the more likely you are to win a $50 Bunnings gift voucher, thanks to Cube Home Loans. Okay, so time and cost. How big is a piece of string? You can get, the IKEA and the Bunnings kitchens for a couple of $1,000s, but you have to put them together yourself. There's obviously issues with that. So, for the purposes of my information today, I'm going to assume it's a professional job and we're not going to go to those places. So if you want to just replace a few items, $10K is normally pretty good. If you've got a reasonable sized kitchen and you want to replace all of the cabinets and get, say, a 10 mil stone bench top, like just a reconstituted stone with a few overhead cupboards, you're looking closer to 20. As soon as you start adding fancier items or purchasing of new appliances, then it goes up. So generally, I'd say for a full refab, you don't have to do anything and you're getting some really decent materials, all new stainless steel appliances, medium range, 30K is a pretty good baseline, provided you're not moving any services and you're not living out in Mount Isa somewhere where they have to transport everything out to you. There's obviously cost variations there. If you are going to be doing this, I suggest setting aside sort of a 10 to 15% budget as a contingency, especially if you're dealing with an older home. Your services might not be that great. The plumber might go in and be like, yep, great, we're going to cap off all of these services so that you can rip out all your cabinets. Oh dear, there's a leak in the wall that we haven't known about for 20 years. That sort of stuff. So that's a general rule of thumb for me anytime you're doing renovations, 10 to 15% contingency. I think IKEA and Bunnings kitchens have a place. I think if you're going to spend $30,000 on getting your dream kitchen, I would not go to either of them. But if you have an absolutely terrible kitchen and you want something that's cost effective that you know you're going to replace in 5 to 10 years, by all means, go to Bunnings and IKEA. There's nothing wrong with them. They have the time and place. It's just, as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to go to the effort, you might as well just save up the money and do it properly the first time. Just my opinion. That being said, though, if you have a little donga on the beach somewhere that's a holiday home, perfect. Go to IKEA. Go to Bunnings. Go to the op shop and buy something. Hey. Accessories, lighting. So something that people often forget about is the details. So whenever I'm designing a kitchen, I try and think about how the space is going to be used. And sometimes that's a bit tricky if you're doing, say, an apartment block, and you don't know who's going to be using the space. But when you're designing for yourself, that's really easy. So I've had clients who hate handles on their cupboard doors. So they did full handleless the entire time. But then they had to make sure they had somewhere for their tea towel and their ouch gloves to go. That's what I call them, mittens. So you've really got to think through every single step of how you use the space, all of the decisions that you make. Another thing I recommend to clients, especially these days, is extra PowerPoints and PowerPoints with USB plugs. Because I don't know about your home, but our home, the kitchen bench tends to be for tablets and phone charging, especially if you've got guests over. You know, they sort of come over and go, oh my God, I've been at work all day and it's a Friday and my phone's dying. I got to plug in somewhere, you know. So you can never have too many PowerPoints, USB ports as well. Okay. And also with island benches, make sure you do have power outlets on island benches. I have done some power outlets in drawers, not for kitchens though. I find that's a little bit of a potential hazard. You can, however, get ones that sort of punch out. So you sort of press a button and then they come up and then you can plug in. I'm just trying to remember what they're actually called. I'm having a mental blank. I'm pretty sure it's actually in our kitchen checklist. So if you download the checklist by subscribing, then you'll get that. And we're running out of time now. So any last minute questions for me before we announce our winner? You guys suss it out, Summer. If you have any questions outside of this, by the way, by all means, message the Totally Wicked Group Facebook page. We're trying to get on those things as quickly as possible. And if I'm not there, I mean, we've got gurus who can help you out as well. So the whole point of this is to deliver you guys information. And I don't know what you guys don't know. So the more questions I get, the better. The more I can help you. Any info on Splashbacks? Karen, I'm pretty sure you're on our subscriber list already. So you will get access to that checklist. I will. One second. I'm gonna share this screen again just quickly. Fire safety stuff in the kitchen, that's another one too. Here we go. My mouse has just died for some reason. Okay. So Splashbacks. And safety. So best tiles for kitchens. So Splashbacks, it depends on what sort of style you're going with. Tiles are generally really easy to install. They can be as decorative or as plain as you like. They're the stock standard. Glass is the more modern style, and like I was saying before, you can do that just about any color. Recommendation to always do the splashback last, because then you can get it exactly right. Make sure you seal it properly too if it's being done as a DIY. fire safety stuff in the kitchen. So some of this is our fire safety checklist, things like an extinguisher, a blanket, make sure your smoke alarms are up to date. The new rules, well, not necessarily new, but they've been out for a little while now. Your smoke alarms need to be actually connected properly with a battery as well as a backup. And pretty sure there need to be in every bedroom now in new homes and in between bedroom or sleeping areas and fire sources like the kitchen. Another thing with splashbacks, Karen, is whatever bench top and splashback you get, you need to make sure they're compatible. It's not that crazy if you're doing things like a reconstituted stone with tile splashbacks. But if you're doing, say, stainless steel against an aluminium window, not that great. Or again, stainless steel splashback around an aluminium window because they're corrosive in contact. What else have we got? Ian. Any special ways of increasing storage in a kitchen without compromising space? So this is a case where you really need to think about everything that you have. So one thing I love to do is have things that are flat up on end. So I'll just get out of this so that I can actually see you guys. This screen sharing thing, I'm going to get used to it. There we go. Hello. Hi. So things like oven trays, they're flat and they are really durable. You can stand them up on end and save a heap of space. So sometimes you can actually have a benefit of having a really small cupboard of like 100, 150 wide, because thinking about putting those flat pieces in a drawer like that, aside from the fact that you can't really see what's at the bottom of the drawer, it's really difficult to get out and you're not utilizing all of the space. Drawers tend to be easier to get things out of. They are more expensive and they do take up a little bit more space, but generally better usability. And when they're better usability, better for storage. Overheads, obviously, try and make as much of that space up as you can. You can get corner pullouts. So places like Hafele and Bloom are my go-to for those, and they have a whole heap of different options. So you can have square. Actually, it's not really something I can really explain. I'll see if I can find it. But you can get items that are like that spiral around, so you can get things out of the back of the corners, so you're not like reaching in and getting things on your hands and knees to try and get down the back of stuff that's fallen. Yeah, sort of just thinking about the spaces in 3D as well. Things like wine glass racks are quite good too, depending on how much cleaning you want to do and how often you use them, because obviously as soon as something is out of the cupboard, it's going to get dust on it if it's not used often. But again, with most things like storage, think about the usability and even just placing of items. So things like Christmas platters, you don't need to have access to all the time. So they might go up high somewhere out the way that's not in that triangle space. I'll see if I can find this. If Carolyn, do you want to pick out a person for this Bunnings voucher while I just quickly check for this? Aha, that's what I want. I will share this in a second so you guys see how awesome this is. One of them's in Bunnings. Haha, that's funny. Okay. Okay, so these are some pretty cool corner. In the hat. Awesome, we have a hat. I will do that in a second. Yeah, so these are some pretty cool corner storage options. Obviously varying in price depending on what you're doing. These are the square ones that I was talking to you about. These actually use the space really, really well. That's another one there. There is also another one that's a spinner one, but basically there are heaps of different options that you can use, all vary in prices, obviously. Okay, I'll stop sharing. And here I am. So, a whole pantry for just containers. Yes. All right, I am going to draw the $50 Bunnings voucher that was graciously donated by Scott Beattie from Cube Home Loans, which, by the way, he was our last guest. So if you wanted to know anything about home loans, finance for building, renovating, check out our previous video. So here we go. I'm not looking. Karen Sullivan, congratulations. Maybe you can use that to help take that bench top off of your kitchen benches. So well done. Thank you everyone for your comments. As always, please like, tag, and share if you know of anyone who would benefit from all of this. And our kitchen checklist will be out to you in the next couple of days, along with the summary and link to this video, so you get all of the information without having to sit through the now hour. I said 45 minutes. It's now an hour. Sorry, people. It's kitchens. I love kitchens. I just have to keep talking about them. So sorry. Thank you for staying. Yay, Karen, we'll get that out to you shortly. And yes, thank you so much. Our next month is going to be about landscaping with Steve from Langley Gardens and Landscaping. So get your questions out about landscaping and adding value to your home through landscaping, because it's usually the first thing people see when they come to a house. And sign up for the newsletter so we can send out stuff to you. And thank you to Hawthorne Creative again for hosting me tonight and having everything all sorted. Thanks again to Cube Home Loans for the $50 voucher, and congratulations to Karen. So everybody, thank you very much and have a totally wicked evening.